I'm Sinéad Morrissey. I'm a poet from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I've published 6 collections of poetry with Carcanet Press, beginning in 1996 with my first collection there was Fire in Vancouver, and my most recent collection was On Balance, which was published in 2017. So Found Architecture, which is published by Carcanet this month, is my first UK selected poems, and it draws on poems from all 6 of these collections. I like to write best in a quiet, bright and tidy place with access to internet and nobody else around. In an ideal world, this would also be somewhere very beautiful, but failing that, I have a desk and a quiet study, and I like to work here, looking out onto my backyard. The last book I read which really blew me away was the quartet of rabbit novels by John Updike, which really work as one novel. Each one set in a decade, so it kind of covers 4 decades of American socio-political history. And they blew me away because of the kind of dazzling nature of Updike's individual sentences. I think he is a master of the prose sentence and of kind of rolling, capacious, complicated syntax. And taken together, they are filled with a kind of glittering, degraded light. It's a very degraded world that he describes, and interpersonal relationships are very degraded. And yet it still glitters and is extraordinary. In a way, they made me think that he was writing the underbelly of capitalism. They're filled with details and product names and television programs, and you get this kind of surfeit of ordinary detail. But you also get a sense that this connects in a profound way to the way people develop and to the way they treat each other. Putting together the poems for Found Architecture was quite a strange experience in some ways. As you kind of cast your eye back over your own life, which has been objectified. So, on a very personal level, my whole life is kind of in there in some form or other, from being a very young person and getting married and having children and growing older. There are poems about all those different kinds of things. And then in another way, it was very interesting to see how sort of themes and subjects get picked up like leitmotifs through the work and get developed, and also how my formal approach kind of changes as I go through. And certainly there is a marked difference in the early work to later work, in that the early work is much more sort of directly confessional, and I shy away from that directness. I definitely shy away from it as I go on. And I become much more interested in kind of the sinuous textures of poems, the possibilities of structure, and a kind of hyper-awareness of shape and dimension. But it's also a good time to take stock of the work so far. I mean, it's inevitably a sort of hiatus moment. And it makes me really want to not only take stock, but kind of do something else, do something different, maybe change direction. Not sure. All of that has yet to come. I don't have a favourite poem in Found Architecture. There's too much work. There's too many different types of poems, I think, doing different types of things. But I would say that with a collection, usually, after a certain amount of time has passed, you might look back and there might be, 1 or 2 poems you're not exactly enamored with anymore, or that you don't really think quite fit. And when I was making this selection, I was careful to go with those poems which seemed to me the best of what I have written, and to go for a selection that I could stand over. So while I don't have an individual favourite poem, I do stand over it, and I do think that it is representative of the kinds of things I've done so far.